Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So today I am going to talk about all the books that I have read in the month of October. It's been a while since I did my last video and I actually stopped doing the bookish podcast, but I think I'm really trying to get back into the game. So I thought that October was a pretty decent month reading wise, so I would just give a quick update of the books that I read in the month of October. So, the first book that I wish to talk about is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. This was a much hyped book and I went into it with a lot of expectations because everyone was giving it glowing reviews and it is quite an entertaining book as well. So For the Wolf is a YA fantasy book which is a retelling of the Red Riding Hood, as you can tell from the cover and the name. So Red lives in a kingdom where it is a tradition to give away the second daughter to the wilder wood, and which is this mysterious wood from no one goes in there, and if someone goes into the woods they never come out. It is considered a dangerous and quite a dark part of the wood where this monster, this wolf, lives. So if the second daughter is sent away to the wilder wood, it would appease the wolf and he won't unleash his monsters on the kingdom, or so they are told. So when Red goes into the wilder wood, she realizes that the reality is far from what she had been taught. So that's basically the story in a nutshell, and it is quite an exciting read, I would say. There was always something to figure out. The story was always moving. I enjoyed all that part, but the book didn't really steer away from any of the usual YA fantasy tropes or cliches, should I say. So it is good, and it has everything that you normally see in a YA fantasy fiction that comes out these days. So I enjoyed it. I rated it a 3.5 out of 5, and you can find a review of the book in my blog very soon. A detailed review. If you want a very detailed non-spoiler review, it will be coming up in my blog pretty soon. The next book that I wish to talk about is Girl Gone Viral by Alicia Wright. So I have been reading the Modern Love series mainly because I wanted to read this one. Most of the bookish people that I follow have given this book a good review, so I really wanted to read this one. While the first book wasn't exactly getting a better review, so I went into the first book, The Right Swipe, with a bit of a skepticism, but I was surprised that I actually liked the first one better than the second one. So Girl Gone Viral is about this introvert billionaire, Katrina King, and she is an ex-model and she is a recluse. So a random encounter puts her in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, and she is really afraid of being discovered or being found by the social media community. So her bodyguard, Just Singh, takes her away to this remote family home, and of course they are both attracted to each other. Things happen and it is a sweet romance. So I enjoyed the romance and the chemistry in the book. It was all good, but there was a lot of setups in the book that didn't really pay off. So I was really waiting to see a lot to unfold, but it didn't really happen. So I was like, oh, it's ending here, that's all. And that was kind of abrupt for me, to say the least. And yeah, which is why I ended up rating it a 3 out of 5. And of course, the review of this one you can find it in my blog. It's not out yet, but it will be out very soon. And once it goes out in my blog, I will leave a link in the description box below. So that is a second book. The third book that I wish to talk about is Reborn Yesterday by Tessa Bailey. So again, this book was highly recommended by a booktuber that I regularly watch. I had really high expectations from this book. It is the first book in the Phenomenal Fate series, and it's been a while since I read a vampire romance story. I'm not really into all kinds of vampire story, but once in a while I'm interested in the more human element of the story. Ironically, I'd like to find that edge, and so I haven't read much since Twilight, so I thought, okay, let's revisit a vampire romance, and I was really hoping for something fresh in this format, in this story format, because we always know what we're getting into while we read a vampire human love story. So I really was hoping that this would shift from the usual trope somehow. We follow the main character Ginny, who is a funeral home director, and she encounters a vampire, Jonas, while she is embalming his body. So vampires have a code, and that is to keep their identity secret. But Jonas starts falling for Ginny, and that is against the code of context, apparently. So this is where things start getting interesting. The two main characters have very amazing chemistry, and it is a steamy romance. All of that I enjoyed, but yeah, my only problem that I had with this book was it wasn't really anything innovative or something different, because it was hitting all the marks in this tried and tested formula, but it never really shifted away from that or gave us something new as far as I'm concerned. So that is why I couldn't get on board with it completely. But it was really entertaining. It wasn't boring in any way. So I rated it a 3.5 out of 5. So the next book that I want to talk about is The Book of Uriel by Elise Hoffman. So this is a historical fiction set in the World War II backdrop, and I read it as part of the Right Reads blog too. As we can tell from the title, the book follows the main character Uriel, who is a Jewish boy, and his village has been destroyed by the Nazis, and he is in hiding. So he comes under the care of this man Uwe, who is a linguist, and a beautiful relationship forms between the two, because this man protects the child, but he has a mission. He has this golden book which is full of stories written by Uriel himself, but Uriel soon finds that the stories or the tales that he believed as folklore or fantasy was a lot more than that, and he had a certain mission in order to save his people, but in the completion of this mission resulted in putting Uwe's life in danger. So that is quite a conflict there, and as you can tell, this book has a lot to unpack, because it is set in the World War II backdrop, and it was a period of oppression and a lot of injustice. So a lot of things are addressed in this book, and I really had a great time. Although somewhere in the middle I found a little problem with the pacing. It just slowed down after hitting a great start. So that was a bit of a problem for me. Other than that, this was a near perfect read for me. So I ended up rating it a 4 out of 5. So the last book that I wish to talk about is Gods and Monsters by Shelby Murray. So this book, I have been following this series for a long time now, since The Serpent and Dove, the first book, and I love the first book. The second one, Blood and Honey, if I'm remembering it correctly, I wasn't a great fan of it. My main issue with the second book was, well, it had the second book syndrome. It just revisited the conflict from the first book, and I hate when series tend to do that. The characters have evolved, but just for the sake of a book, they just go back to the starting point just to have a story. That was my problem with the second book. But the third book, thankfully, evolved beautifully, and the characters came a full circle in the journey, both literally and figuratively. Lou and Reed are the central characters, and their love story is the core of the whole series. But I love the whole band of misfits who eventually made a family of their own, and a lot of things that were set up in the first two books paid off in this one. I love when that happens, and this is a series, so it took care of every single detail that it ever told, and it just neatly wrapped it all in a precise and compact package. It was just dynamic, and I didn't even realize that when I reached the end of the book, and it was a really entertaining read. I enjoyed it. I rated it a 4.5 out of 5. So yeah, those are all the books that I read in the month of October. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, hit that like button and subscribe to my channel and press that bell icon for all notifications. Thank you for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.